Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Nick.
And welcome to It Takes Two, the podcast where two people take two movies with the same plot or premise and watch and discuss them.
And in this episode, we watched 1940s Pinocchio, Disney original, and Chappie.
Yes. This is a fun episode, but these movies are very much the same movie.
They're borderline identical. It's kind of scary. I found, because I don't know, so this is a confusing part. Obviously, I've seen Chappie before, because it's a great movie. I love Neill's work. I also love the band that plays predominantly Diamond in the cast. Mm-hmm. Sharpler Copley.
Sharpler Copley.
Thank you. My tongue got all twisted then. Another fantastic actor. My number one, Sigourney Weaver's also in it. Our boy Hugh Jackman's in it.
Our boy Hugh Jackman. Don't forget Dev Patel, because he's like the only cast member you've missed out at this point.
Yes, true. Which is interesting because I had no, I'm thinking of the wrong person. He's not in Life of Pi, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, he is? Okay, I just thought I was going to pull the racist card, and it was just like, no.
And Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had Pinocchio in 1940 had like a moment that I was like, this is Slumdog Millionaire. Oh no, sorry, Life of Pi.
Life of Pi, yeah.
Oh my god, we're all over the place already, and it's only a minute in.
Yeah.
I had some massive Mandela effect.
Yeah.
During Pinocchio, because I thought I'd watched this version that we watched today, but I remember parts and scenes differently, and I've also got a theory which we'll get into at the due course. But where do you want to start? Do you want to start in a place that we can compare characters?
I want to start with the fact that Dev Patel is not in Life of Pi.
Oh my god.
I could have sworn he was. No, I think I was getting mixed up because the character's name is Pi Patel.
Right.
I legitimately, when you said it to me, I was like, yeah, that's Dev Patel in that movie. It's just like, obviously, I haven't seen it since, I saw it in cinema, but I haven't seen it since then. He was in another similar movie, Lion? Is that right?
I don't know.
Alright, well, apologies to Suraj Sharma, who is the main character in Life of Pi, that we both just mixed up with Dev Patel because we're idiots.
Yeah.
But I watched Life of Pi once in 2012 and that's it.
Yeah, I think I watched it maybe 13 or 14, so it would have been a long time ago.
Yeah. So apologies for getting that wrong.
But that's the thing, when you get so many fantastic actors coming along that I would say sort of typecasting into the same genre of character, it's hard to keep it all.
Yeah, I mean, you could have cast Dev Patel in that role.
Yeah.
And Dev Patel at the time was very ubiquitous. He was in a lot of things. So I think he's in Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, which I haven't seen, but I think Dev Patel's in that as well. He was just in a bunch because he's from the UK and he was in Skins back in the mid-2000s.
That's the superhero show, right? No, it's
like a whole lot of teenagers who do drugs, have mental illness.
Oh, okay. So just normal school then. What was the superhero one that the whole bunch of Game of Thrones actors came from?
I don't know.
No? You don't know? Well, that's not going to help me.
No, I'm sorry. Misfits? Is that?
Oh, yeah, it was Misfits. Yeah, that's right.
I've heard of it, but I don't actually know what it's about.
I never watched it.
Cool.
I saw it and was like, no. Anyway, where are we? Okay.
There were actors from Skins in Game of Thrones though as well. They just took out of like every teenage British show and.
I just heard Strider strum the ukulele.
Yeah, our cat is playing the ukulele in the other room because he's a musician.
Yeah, and a producer.
Yes.
He's a deucer of purse.
Yes.
See, Chappie has a smaller amount of characters than Pinocchio does, but I feel that a lot of the characters in Chappie are just personality types from Pinocchio all rolled into either Yolandi or Ninja or America in this case.
Yeah, definitely. It's fun because like I don't think Chappie is intentionally referencing Pinocchio at any point. I mean, from what I can see, it's not something they've listed ever as an influence, or I think RoboCop is a big influence. I think RoboCop was a big thing where they've kind of gone the opposite way, where it's the robot is the right way and the person controlling the robot is the wrong way to do things. Yeah, they've never. It doesn't seem like Pinocchio was an intentional thing, but it's very much what happens. And I think where the connection really comes from is how childlike Chappie is. That both Pinocchio and Chappie are, man-made creations that are brought to life and have the they essentially are babies and they have to learn the world from scratch when they look like someone that people expect to already have some idea of things. Yeah,
so you get, I'm trying to think of characters' names now, even though we just watched
Geppetto?
Geppetto is Dion.
Yeah, I think Blue Fairy is a little bit Dion as well.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who brings him to life.
And also Jiminy Cricket is also a little Dion as well.
Yeah, Jiminy Cricket, I felt like Yolandi and Dion share the role of Jiminy Cricket. Because they're both trying to influence him in a positive way and teach him to, do things. And I think that's where the line blurs between Blue Fairy and Jiminy Cricket for me with Dion's character.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who brings him to life, and then he's the one who lays down the rules for him, like you must not do crimes, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Whereas the Blue Fairy is the one who's like, you need to be brave and honest and unselfish, or whatever. Selfless, yeah. But then he does, whereas the Blue Fairy then just disappears and gives Jiminy Cricket the conscience role. In Chappie, you do have both Dion and Yolandi trying to teach him good.
Yeah.
And teach him to, chase his dreams and things and encourage him.
We're ninjas covering Honest John. Who's the...
Stromboli?
Stromboli,
the guy who's running the puppet show.
Yeah. And... Yeah, it's an interesting mix, like, because each character in sort of Chappie plays like a part of like parenting in probably the worst way ever.
Yeah, because it's proper dysfunctional families.
Yeah. I don't know where to go from here because the stories are pretty similar. Like
well, it's a fun episode, and I think in fun episodes we tend to like try to prove that it's the same movie.
Well, they are. The characters are the same, and it's both about one being a marionette puppet and one being a police robot who gain sentience and then cause mayhem and chaos as they go along. Yeah. It's very much about, like, both of them are very much about, them learning morals and things, and also, like, how much of an influence everything you interact with externally has on you. Yeah. Because you get like Pinocchio that, he's told to go to school, so he starts going to school, and then someone stops and is like, oh no, you should become an actor. He's like, okay, I'll become an actor. And then it's, and then the boys are teaching him to drink and smoke cigars and things, and it's, he's just like, okay, I guess this is what boys do. And in Chappie you have, there's a wonderful scene, because obviously he's left with Yolandi and Ninja and America, and Dion is off working or whatever, and Dion comes back to teach him stuff, and he's like, hello, have you learned this word yet? And he's like, just starts immediately acting and speaking gangster to him and cursing at him, and he's like, who taught you this? Like, where? Because he's like, because he's been, researching, he's like, oh, they're supposed to say the first word at 3 months old, and Chappie is 1 day old, and he's speaking in whole sentences. But it's very much, Chappie is influenced by everyone, and Pinocchio is the same way, that like literally every person who speaks to him, he's like, I'm absorbing this, because Chappie has, he's quoting Dion, but then he's also quoting Yolandi, and he's doing stuff that Ninja tells him to do, and he's believing things that America tells him that are lies, and he's going out and they use him to steal cars by telling him that
those people have stolen daddy's cars and you need to go get them back. So he's like pulling people over and they think he's a police officer and then he's like, you stole daddy's cars! Don't take things that aren't yours! And they're all just like, what's happening?
Is there a problem here, officer? And just smashes the car to bits with a sledge. Oh, no, it was a wrench, yeah. For me, going back to a running joke, Geppetto was a terrible parent.
Absolutely
literally his wishes for his puppet to become a real boy, and then instantly he's like, well, you were a real boy, go to school tomorrow. What?
Yeah, and like,
but not even walk him, just like,
both,
go to school by yourself.
Both Pinocchio and Chappie have just terrible parental figures the whole way through, because Jiminy Cricket is not a good parental figure either. He's not a good conscience. Because
it's interesting, because I'd forgotten the beginning, like Jiminy Cricket's origin is he just wanders into Geppetto's workshop.
Jiminy Cricket is a homeless man who breaks into their home.
Yeah.
And then is like, I'll be his conscience. Is like, well, we already know that you just committed a crime. You're currently in the act of committing a crime, actually. So you're not going to be a good conscience to this kid. And then he like tries to explain good and bad to him and can't do it and gives up. And then like he just immediately gives up on him every time Pinocchio does something slightly wrong, when Pinocchio literally doesn't know any better. Yeah. And it's like, dude, just like you volunteered to teach him, like actually teach him. But yeah, Geppetto's just like, okay, bye. Here's an apple for the teacher. See you later. And doesn't even tell him where to go.
Yeah.
Or what a school is. He just tells him to go to school, and then Pinocchio gets distracted along the way. And then Geppetto's like waiting at home, like, oh, why is Pinocchio not showing up? It's like, dude, like, you just he was born yesterday. Can you imagine you like birthed a child and then you just like rolled them out the door the next day, and then an hour, like 5 hours later, we're like, oh, I wonder why they're not at home. It's like, because you just like rolled them into the street. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. You've given a inanimate object sentience, and then your response is, well, no longer my responsibility. Go enjoy public education.
Yeah. And you'd think that, like, even that he would have to go with him to set him up to be in the school, because it's not like they have telephones. He hasn't, like, called someone to say, hey, I've enrolled my child in school tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So
also, the thing you mentioned while we were watching it would be like, you're an old man with no wife. Where did you find like a school-age child?
Yeah, like, if he just showed up at the school and was like, oh, here's my boy, they'd be like, Geppetto, you don't have a boy. And
also, he's made out of wood.
Yeah, he's like,
what kind of scam are you pulling?
This is my boy. But now it's funnier because, I was going to say spoiler. It's not a spoiler. At the end of the movie, he's a real boy. He turns into a human. And at that point, he hasn't been to school because he didn't actually go.
Yeah.
So Geppetto is going to show up at a school with a human child who's like 5 or 6 years old and be like, here's my son, have a good day at school. And they're going to be like, Geppetto, you don't have a son. He's like, no, I have a son now. It's like,
he saved me from the belly of a whale. And you'd be just like, all right, old man.
Geppetto, where did you get this child from?
You rescued me from a whale, I swear. All right, into the nut house with you, child. You're into the...
We already know that, like, every other adult that Pinocchio meets is a kidnapper.
Yes.
So...
It's not a good neighborhood he lives in.
It doesn't mean anyone who's not a kidnapper. They all kidnap him. He gets kidnapped, like, 4 times.
Also, they're... anthropomorphic? No, what's the word?
Yeah, there's an anthropomorphic fox, but then there's like an actual cat and things.
Yeah, it's all very confusing.
Weird.
That's what you get for taking a very old Italian fairy tale. Because do you know the actual story?
I know bits and pieces of it. I was researching it for this, and apparently Jiminy Cricket appears in it, and Pinocchio immediately kills him with a hammer. So he's not in the rest of this.
I have seen a version of it where maybe the weird... who was the kid that was in Tall Time?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas voices him, and he's actually made out of wood.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's live action. But I remember the story being that the Geppetto was once engaged and they carved their love for each other, like Geppetto plus whatever, on a tree. And that's the tree that he carves into Pinocchio.
Okay.
And then it's sort of like a weird... It's
like a Pygmalion story.
Yeah, getting them back together again.
Yeah.
Because like his actual form is carved from their love, or the representation of it. So as you were talking about kidnapping...
Yeah, there's a lot of kidnapping. There's kidnapping in Chappie too.
Yes.
He gets kidnapped.
Yes.
Multiple times, actually.
Yeah. The part that I want to cover, which is what I had where I was sort of sitting there in I did the Christopher Lloyd eyes go wild and sort of look to the side gif meme that you see all the time. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So I remember when they get to... So obviously after, him being kidnapped the first time and then escaping and then going to the Paradise Island.
Right.
I remember him getting shot in the chest.
What?
And then because there's gunfire in the island, and then they go on a roller coaster through a waterfall, and the boys are drinking the water, and because Pinocchio's got holes in him, not all the water goes it gets absorbed,
right?
And that's why it only slightly turns into a donkey.
Oh, is this in a different version of Pinocchio?
I could not find it because there are so many versions of Pinocchio out there.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to make our own adaptation of Pinocchio. And
no, because it's already been done, unless, like I said in another episode, I am from the other dimension.
Yeah.
The Mandela dimension.
Proper Mandela effect.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Talking of donkeys.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about Shrek for a second?
What? Oh, the fact that Donkey in Shrek is 100%
one
a
of
boy.
The boys from Paradise Island. Yeah.
It makes sense for him to be a talking donkey in a fairy tale world.
Also, Pinocchio's in Shrek.
Yeah, but you'd think Pinocchio would say something about it, in Shrek.
But
I guess unless it's because he's still a wooden boy.
Yes.
So maybe the Pinocchio that we see in Shrek is pre-Paradise Island Pinocchio. So he doesn't know about the donkeys yet.
The theory you're going with is Pinocchio and the multiverse of madness.
Yeah. So Pinocchio and Shrek. So we have to make a new Shrek movie where Pinocchio goes to Paradise Island and it's a donkey origin story.
So this is X-Men donkey origins.
Yeah. Shrek donkey origins.
And then they'll take a beloved character whose entire point is he makes wise ass comments
and will sell his mouth shut. Yeah.
And it'll take studios years to make the proper movie.
Yep.
Is it the boy?
Yeah, he's just climbed into a pile of shopping bags. I shouldn't have that blind up because then we can see him while we record.
Yeah, well, you opened it, I'm just saying.
Well, he wanted to look out the window. He's being nice. He's burying himself. Okay. Yeah.
Where are we up to?
Well,
Mandela effect,
we were talking
multiverse of madness,
Shrek. Yeah, no, I 100% believe that theory that Donkey in Shrek is one of the boys who went to Paradise Island.
See, I go one further and it's not a theory, it's just headcanon.
How is that further? That's a step back.
No, headcanon being that is the actual canon in my head.
Yeah, but that means it's only the canon in your head rather than believing that it's the real
story.
Canon. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I'd say it's one step it would be parallel rather than down, but anyway.
Fair enough.
We've gone completely off track here.
Yeah.
What were your... Because you'd seen...
Pleasure Island. I knew we were saying it wrong. Pleasure Island.
What were we calling it?
You said Paradise Island, and then I couldn't think of what it was. Pleasure Island. Yep. What were you going to ask me?
Your feelings about Chappie rewatching it.
I love Chappie.
Because for me... Because obviously there's with the moose, there's sort of a little District 9-esque part in it. After what... Because you don't like Elysium, right? But it's because you don't like Matt Damon?
I do like Matt Damon. I just thought Elysium was a bad movie. I just thought it was badly made.
In what parts?
I don't remember. It's been a very long time since I saw it, but it really annoyed me at the time.
Okay.
You can make maybe watch it if you want to, and we'll see if it's different.
That sounds like I've got duct tape in the
But my scale of ratings for Neil Blomkamp films is District 9 is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Chappie is an 8 out of 10. Elysium is a 3 out of 10.
Okay. Is it? No, he's done more than that, hasn't he?
Has he?
I feel like it.
Those are the only ones I've seen.
Feel like he has.
I thought those were the only films he'd done. I know, which I didn't realize until today. Apparently, Chappie was supposed to be the first in a trilogy.
Okay.
But then it
What was the continue on?
I don't know. I assume it would have been starting off with maybe them finding Yolandi or something.
Well, there was a movie that came out last year.
What was it?
This one.
Demonic. No, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Interesting.
Cool.
Oh,
I'll have to
okay. So it was.
check it out, maybe.
It was in mid-pandemic, and that was probably why.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'm willing to check out more Neill Blomkamp movies. I enjoy his stuff. But
You're right.
oh yeah, I was trying to think what track we were even on. You were saying something about Moose being District 9.
Yeah, because there's the battle suit in District 9, and obviously the I think it's more visceral in District 9 versus Hugh Jackman just sitting in a chair with a funny hat on, being like, "Yeah, get
Hugh
scumbags."
Jackman is wonderful. One thing I want to say about Chappie is, like, I love and appreciate the fact that you've got a film where some of the main characters are downward being gangsters and being total idiots and, you know, training a robot to be a gangster.
Yeah.
And yet Hugh Jackman's the one who comes across as a cartoon villain.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just like a cartoon. It's so wonderful. It's also just great to see Hugh Jackman play an Australian for once, but he goes like full nutso military guy, but like in a just like it's psychotic way. I don't know.
Because there's that scene where he just pins Dion to his desk and pulls a gun and sticks it in his face in a crowded office space with other people just like.
It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. That like he's like talking to him about something, and then he's like, you know, he's asking him for the guard key, and Dion's like, I can't give you that, and then he like slams his face down and pulls out a gun on him and has him pinned to the desk, and he's like. He's saying shit to him, like he's doing his like evil cartoon villain master plan speech, pretty much. And they're like in an open cubicle in the middle of an office, and everyone else is kind of looking at them like, what the hell? And then he fires the gun, but there's nothing in it. Yeah. And then he's like, I wouldn't carry a loaded gun in the office. It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank, guys. Yeah. Just a prank.
It's just like, what number is HR? Because I'm filing like a harassment claim. Like, that's instant PG.
I mean, maybe it's just because it's South Africa, and if it was anywhere else, they wouldn't be able to pull off that scene.
Talking of, because there's the scene where Dion buys a gun just instantly. And as a person who used to work in access control, and for those who are uninitiated, access control is where you have people have different forms of access to restricted areas based on their job and qualifications. Yep. Dion apparently just has access to go into an armory at one point and just take firearms with no one checking on him.
As like the lead engineer for the squad or whatever, it makes sense that he has the access control, like the restricted access to the actual guard key. Yeah. But why can he access the armory? Why does he ever need to access the armory?
And it's interesting that they have, because it's obviously like the company's employed by the police department to deploy the drones. Yeah. But you'd think, being a company who's supplying weapons, but you're only making robot scouts. Yeah. Why would you have firearms on site? If the whole point is you're selling them to the police.
Yeah, so the police would be arming them.
And then because the repairs look like they're in a different building. Yeah. So when 22, who eventually becomes Chappie, comes back in, before he gets hit by the RPG, which you did mention earlier that you wanted me to talk about the firearms in this, and I'll get into it in a second.
Yeah, I just thought you'd enjoy because there's a lot of firearms in this movie.
I will segue very shortly. Well, it's more of a step rather than a segue. Where, you wouldn't have them accessible. Like, even if you had a testing firing range, you would have a small amount of the weapons that the police are issuing to the scouts in a location, but the location would be kept by a trained armourer, and the armourer wouldn't be just an unguarded room that anybody has swipe access to can get into, because that's just... I don't care if it's South Africa or not.
Yeah.
Like...
It's just bad management, especially for a weapons company.
Yeah, exactly.
And one that is like supplying the whole police force.
Now, if that had been... Because we do see special weapons getting deployed by the scouts, especially in the opening when Ninja and Yolandi are basically blackmailed into paying, I can't remember the character's name. Hippo, $2 million. 2
million rand.
Yeah.
Which is 20 million rand.
20
which
million.
Which is about just less than $2 million US dollars, I think.
That's why I think I got... because listening to Diane Wood and they talk about the exchange rate in one of the songs.
Do they?
Yes.
That's amazing.
So I instantly did the maths without thinking about it. If you would have changed it just a little bit and say, because the rifle that he ends up giving Chappie at the spoilers at the end of the fight with the moose robot, if it had been in an area where it was like, it had the word prototype written on the top of the case, then I could understand that, it's basically he's doing a Lucius Fox here and just giving Bruce Wayne like prototype shit. Yeah. Like that makes sense to me. Yeah. Because you do see one of the other scouts using a anti-material rifle. Right. There's quite a short barrel on it, which was quite surprising because you'd think they'd just give them like a full-size one. Yes, the firearms usage in this movie. Okay, so I'm going to give some of the actors a pass because they are playing gangster with
you're talking about the way that Ninja holds his gun. The way that Ninja
teaches Chappie to shoot is he holds his it looks like a Walther series pistol with a ridiculous sight on it, which he doesn't use because he turns the pistol sideways, which if you've ever fired a handgun is really stupid because they're designed to be fired straight up and down for lots of reasons. And then he holds it about half a foot above his head.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because he's like, you line up the shot and it's like, how are you lining that up? Yeah. Because you've got a sight on there that's like way above your head and not
also
pointing.
Sideways. Yeah. And like I can get it from like his like bright yellow M4 or AR platform is quite funny. Because like Yolandi also has like they dress up. I don't know how much influence the production team had on the band and what they were dressing up like, because it just everything about it oozes them.
Yeah, I think because I think the band really had a lot of say in it, a lot of creativity. Because they also painted all the murals and things in their hideout, and they worked with the production team on making the whole place decorated the way they wanted to see it decorated.
And it's funny because you pulled up one of Ninja's tattoos while we were watching the movie, because it is a caricature of a child with a huge penis. Yes. And you were like, what the hell's the deal with that? And I was like, I'm waiting till the podcast to tell you. So the song that blew them up internationally is called Evil Boy. Right. And I will not suggest for some members of our audience to look that up. I'm pretty sure the people who know what I'm talking about have already seen it. It is a weird, very weird music video for anybody who's interested.
Yes, also every Diane Word music video is a very weird music video from what I have seen.
Yes, they're fantastic. Just like it just pumps it, like it's just raising the bar up from just the crap that gets mass produced of like what I think of other artists in the same sort of genre. So the song that bumped them up to being internationally famous is called Evil Boy, and it's about some of the lyrics are sung in, rapped in Afrikaans, and the whole premise of it is about the ritualistic circumcision done to boys when they reach like puberty, and they literally take boys and do a ritual and drug them and take them into the woods and cut them with a machete.
Wow.
And literally the whole premise of it is like, no, I don't want to become a man. I'll be an evil boy for the rest of my life.
Right, and then they turn into a donkey, and they're on Pleasure Island.
Sure. But yeah, that's where the tattoo comes from, because it was the big push for them.
Apparently he's got a District 9 tattoo on the inside of his lip.
That sounds painful.
Yeah, that does sound painful.
I love how we've gotten to a point where tattoos have become so socially acceptable that they've just gone like full ham, and it's now like tattoo artists have to just push the limit. Because there's people out there getting their eyeballs tattooed, and it's like, that feels like a really dumb idea.
Yeah.
Like, I think the first person who ever did it was like in prison.
Right.
But I think it's become more like...
That's so scary to me. Why would you want to get your... Because, I mean, like, if there's if you get infected in your eyeball...
Yeah,
that's
and I've seen
terrible.
some... There's a mutual friend of ours who will quote this, but I've seen some pretty horrendous infected tattoo videos.
No.
And they are unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to have 0 tattoos. People can have... I have nothing against tattoos, if people want to have tattoos. But personally, I would like to not give myself tattoos. Yeah. Or have someone give them to me.
I was like, oh, you want somebody else to do it?
No. I did. There was one point when I was like a teenager that I thought being a tattoo artist would be a cool thing, and then I was like, I found out that you have to practice on yourself, and I was like, no, actually no.
Or the other option is you practice on pigs.
Pigs? Are you supposed to start off with banana peels and then move on to yourself? I think is the general consensus. Yeah. So where do we want to go from here with the movies? So we've got Chappie...
The point where Chappie goes to look for Dion at the bottom of the ocean, and then he gets swallowed by a whale.
Gets swallowed by a whale. They do both... I mean, this is skipping right to the end, but both Chappie and Pinocchio...
have to fight a giant robot.
Yeah. No, both Chappie and Pinocchio... well, the endings of them both. So they start off as, like, just getting sentience and trying to figure out, and, like... people trying to describe to him what good and bad is, and them having no idea, and then they learn stuff throughout the movie. And then at the end of it, you get them both actually rescuing people by using what they've learned.
Yeah.
But then they both die.
Sort of, yeah.
They both die and come back to life in a new body.
Yes.
And get to live with their creator as a real boy. Yeah. Well, kind of. I mean, Chappie is still a robot, but he's just a different robot.
And now Dion
is also a robot. Yeah, so in Pinocchio, rather than turn Geppetto into a puppet like him, he becomes a real boy, and him and Geppetto end up both as humans. Whereas in Chappie, he turns Dion into a robot, and him and Dion end up as robots together, and Yolandi as well.
Yeah, which is implied but not shown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they show it. That is.
Oh yeah, because you get the... Sorry, yes, I forgot about that weird sequence, because I always like cross it out because the face is terrifying.
Right, yeah, because he hacks into hacks into the warehouse, whatever, and custom builds her like remotely.
Yeah. Which is kind of like a little nod to for those who haven't seen 94's Ghost in the Shell movie.
Right.
Because that's how one of the main sort of protagonist gets created. He basically downloads himself from the internet into a body and ends up at Section 9.
Yeah, it's very much that kind of thing that Chappie's figured out how to do it. Obviously, Chappie learns a lot more in his few days than Pinocchio learns in his.
Yeah. But that's what happens when you hang out with rappers rather than other children.
I was gonna say it's what happens when you have AI inbuilt in your brain and you have access to the internet and because you're a robot can instantly learn everything that's on the internet.
True.
Which he does at one point.
Yeah.
But it's very much triggered by him learning about, or Yolandi telling him about souls and the fact that your physical body is temporary, and then there's a part of you that goes somewhere else when you die, or whatever her beliefs are. And he becomes obsessed with this idea of capturing that essence, because he knows that his physical body is going to, the battery's going to die and it's fused, so it can't be replaced. So he knows that he only has a few days.
Yeah, it's the one thing I will have to say, going back to 17 subjects ago, I really love Neill's work because he uses the same actors over and over again.
Yeah. And
there is a difference between, I feel, how Neill Blomkamp does it versus, say, like Tim Burton, which is just he casts his wife, and I say that in air brackets because they live on the same property, just in a different house. So, are they still married?
I don't think they're still married. I'm not sure, to be honest,
actually. And then, just giving Johnny Depp a phone call and being like, you want to play this character? And it's like, how much? $15 million? Yeah, I'll be there Tuesday. Because that is an easy way to just produce just the same garbage over and over again.
The concept is being an auteur, which is a person, it's a well-known concept. I think Hitchcock famously was one. It's this idea in filmmaking of a person who writes and directs their own stuff, but also uses the same production team, the same musicians, the same actors.
So that's very reminiscent of John Wick, which was all related to the stunt team for The Matrix and Wes Anderson.
Right. Wes Anderson is very much an auteur because he pairs with the same cinematographer for everything, so all his films have the same look. He does the writing, directing. He's got the same music, or same composer for everything, and he's got a pool of cast that he goes to.
I really want to watch Sunrise Kingdom again.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise. Where did I get Sunrise from?
I don't know. Moonrise Kingdom. It's a great movie, though. Yeah. Funnily enough, I think I saw. I watched both Chappie and Moonrise Kingdom. I saw in cinema with the same person back in Ireland. So that's funny.
Nice.
Were they the same year?
I'm not sure.
They might have been, or they were. I feel like they were similar time anyway. And I think both I saw them multiple times in cinema as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's the difference between, I would suggest, the price of cinema tickets in Ireland versus New Zealand.
No, I was going to say they might have been. No, because Chappie was 2015, 2015, I think.
15?
And I was going to say, in 2012, I had an unlimited cinema pass.
Oh, sorry, Elysium was 13. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I also just had more free time on my hands back then than I do now. I'd spend the money, because that when I was in Australia, and I was mostly unemployed for a whole year, I did go to the cinema on a regular basis, and my thought was, other people are spending this money on alcohol or on nights out or on, a coffee every day. And it's like, well, why can't I spend less than that just going to the cinema once every couple of weeks,
He also worked on Dark Angel. That's bizarre. Sorry. Neill Blomkamp.
Okay. He apparently wanted Ninja to play the main character in Elysium. So the Matt Damon character. But Ninja said he didn't want his first on-screen role to be with an American accent.
Makes sense.
So
you'd rather play yourself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. They
basically play themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of a caricature, but no, they really, I'm one of those people who likes music and I don't like bands. Like, if you're like, oh, so-and-so's like this kind of person, it's like, well, I don't care. That there's a difference between, I used to like Louis C.K. and now I don't, versus, I can still listen to Michael Jackson because, reality-wise, nothing really ever stuck, and I don't know if there was a failure of the justice system or it was just, the jury is still out on that one, even though they acquitted him. It's an interesting one, but yeah, it's interesting because, with the Me Too movement, there was a lot of shit thrown at a lot of artists that I listened to. The interesting one that I find bizarre was Marilyn Manson But then it's like, well, you know, there's a dude who's been on drugs for like my entire life who sings about him being the Antichrist, and you wonder about him being a bad person in real life. It's like, but then a lot of his exes came forward and said that's all bullshit, and so you don't know without, you know, an actual case being formed, and this is a problem with I think the media grandstanding what we get these days. And that's both for victims who are male and female, and nondescript pronouns of those as well.
That was a weird way to phrase it, but okay.
Well, half the things I say are weirdly phrased, so it's half the fun of this podcast is me stumbling over my own, like, trailing thought stream.
Fair enough.
It's just like, silence, what are we doing? Help me. Help me.
Is there much else you want to compare with the movies? Because, I mean, Pinocchio is pretty short. I think most people know the story of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Whereas people don't know the story of Chappie. And I feel like, have we touched on enough to prove that Chappie is Pinocchio?
I think we have. I think we wrapped it up in the first 20 odd minutes, personally. The characters are basically the same. The story's basically the same.
Yeah, there's a lot more gun violence. Though,
yeah, Pinocchio is pretty rough.
There is...
Geppetto just pulls a gun from underneath his pillow.
I 100%
There's a boy in my room, kill it!
I genuinely had no recollection of Geppetto trying to shoot Pinocchio, but that literally happens in the movie. Geppetto wakes up because he hears Pinocchio knocking something over, and he immediately pulls a gun from under his pillow, and then he fires it when Pinocchio makes a sound again. Like,
it almost kills Jiminy Cricket. Yeah,
and it's like, what is Geppetto doing? Why does he have a gun under his pillow?
It was the olden days. Locks hadn't been invented
My
yet.
instinct was Geppetto's in the Italian mafia. I know, we know. But then again, like we said, every other adult that we see in the movie is a kidnapper.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe he's got a lot to protect.
It's a weird, like, how dangerous, like, everybody knows South Africa's pretty dangerous because it's just it's a bad place. Like, even if you go there as tourists, if you're like in a hotel, like past the hours of darkness, the guards won't let you out of the hotel. I know this from not first-hand experience, but hearing a story from other people who were in South Africa for a holiday and literally being locked inside their hotel and being like, but I want to go across the street to get some, and they're like, no, you're not leaving.
No. Please do not leave.
Yeah, you can give us a 3-star review. We're not having your death on our conscience. Go back to your friggin' hotel room.
Yeah.
But
here's the question, right? If Geppetto is aware enough of how dangerous his neighborhood is that he keeps a gun under his pillow,
why would he let his child? Well, maybe they, you know.
Yeah, why did he just send him off on his own?
Because he's a terrible parent.
Just born.
Yeah.
We're
talking in circles here, but no, yeah.
Okay.
Despite how happy and go lucky, you know, the whole movie, because this is the thing, I think Disney took, you know, grim fairy tales of European countries that are pretty dark, but they're all about moral lessons to children.
Yeah.
Hansel and Gretel being, you know, pretty bad when you read the Brothers Grimm version of it. And even when we watched 10th Kingdom, like, that was sort of like gloves came off for some of the stories, you know. Oh, yeah. She danced at my wedding. She danced wearing red hot iron shoes, and you're like, oh god. And then you look up and you're like, oh no, that's what actually happened in the original story.
Yeah. Into the Woods is another one that does it, that, like, while still being somewhat of a, you know, it's like a modern cast, and it's got lots of famous people in it and stuff, and it's relatively bubbly, but they follow things like, you know, because they're connecting a whole load of fairy tales.
Yeah.
And they follow things like the evil stepsisters cutting their toes off to fit into the slipper and things like that. There's a whole lot of weird shit in Grimm fairy tales.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently in Pinocchio, because it was released as a serial, like once a month thing.
Pinocchios.
Yeah. The original like written version of it, and apparently he had originally planned to have Pinocchio kill himself by hanging himself.
dark.
And then he was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll give him a happy ending. We'll put the blue fairy in, you know. It was like, oh, okay. Maybe he didn't expect it to be as popular as it was. I don't know. I don't know how popular it was.
Yeah, it's funny for me because I think Disney have really gone. They do sort of like a for their censorship and how dark things get. I think they go up and down. Like Fantasia is terrifying if you're at the audience level that it's designed for. Like that's genuinely scary.
Yeah.
And you watch now as an adult and you're like, what the hell? Like this was shown to me as a child, and then you're sort of like, oh, that's right. Like it goes in waves of like everything is subtext to like everything is perfectly fine and nothing bad happens at all. Like and the censorship sort of goes up and down.
Right.
But yeah, obviously it's more in subtext than like actual children cannibalism and pushing an old lady into an actual oven.
Yeah, yeah. Though, I don't know, Pinocchio went pretty hard there with all the boys being turned into donkeys and sold off to circus and things.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty terrifying. If you're watching that as, like, a young child and it's like, if you do bad things...
Yeah, if you go with a random dude, if you follow a fox down the street who's telling you to go to this island because you've got a made-up medical condition, you're probably going to end up, But, is it subplots for, like, sex trafficking? Like, could you use that in a modern, because there's a lot of shit that's going on with the internet these days.
Yeah.
Of, like, people getting promised money and fame and they go off and they end up on a frickin' island with, the elite of, oh no, we're going to get, It's pretty bad.
It's definitely scary. Chappie's kidnappings start before Chappie's even born.
Yeah.
Because Dion, first of all, takes the body from... Or takes the robot form from... he takes it away from being destroyed because he's developed his AI.
Yeah.
And then he's carjacked by Ninja and crew. So him and Chappie are kidnapped for that. And then they make him do the consciousness while he's there. And then Chappie has to live with them. And then they ditch Chappie out in the wild to go to school by himself and give him an apple and say, go find your teacher.
Yeah.
And
he gets his arm cut off.
Yeah, he gets kidnapped by Hugh Jackman, who's literally, like, buzzsaws his arm off.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying. And the poor Chappie, because he's still, like, a child. He's still reacting like a child. And he's like, my arm is gone. Like, he shows up at home and he's like, my arm is gone.
Yeah. But then he learns how to throw ninja stars and...
yes.
That's, go to sleep.
Yes.
That's the terrifying part for that and just that sequence would have to be where the guard is like on the ground, like, please don't kill me, and Chappie's like, go to sleep. It's like, please don't.
He realised that because Chappie is becoming educated more and more, like he's learning more and more as it goes on, and very much so. It's like Ninja and America teaching him or telling him these lies is very much Honest John or Foul Fellow. I think his real name is Foul Fellow. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Honest John and what's his cat's name? Galileo? It's not Galileo, is it? I can't think of it. The cat that's with him. Anyway, it's them like pretending, oh, you've got this condition, you need to come this way, you need to relax, blah, blah. Yeah. And they're, and in this, it's Ninja in America be like, oh, it's not a crime, you don't need to use the guns, like you just stab the knife in and then they go to sleep.
It's a nice thing. And then he's instantly like, you want to go to sleep?
And they're like, no. Daddy's already slept today, he's not tired. But then they get to the part where they're actually doing the heist. And he's throwing ninja stars and stuff and, saying, go to sleep. And he thinks that he literally still believes that he's putting them to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's actually, obviously, he's harming these people, potentially killing these people. And then it's the guard, who, like you said, or the police officer who's, like, backing up and being like, please don't hurt me, don't. And, he pulls the ninja star out of him. And he's like, why aren't you asleep? Why aren't you going to sleep? And then he, like, realizes, you can see him kind of, like, have a moment where he hesitates. But he also knows that they need to go, and he literally just goes, I'm sorry, and then leaves because he's suddenly realized that what he's done, and then he realizes after that Ninja has lied to him also about getting him a new body and things like that. So that's the bit in Pinocchio where he starts to see people turning into donkeys and realize it's not good. It's not a good thing to be a bad boy.
Yeah.
these things aren't good things. These things are bad things.
So you want to move on to some trivia and
Yeah, sure.
comparing box. I don't think box office will work.
It's interesting because both of them in the IMDb trivia state that they were considered flops, and then you look at the box office and like none of these seem like flops to me. But okay.
Yeah, but that's Hollywood accounting for you. Like the original Star Wars, so Episode 4 never made any money.
Well, apparently, Pinocchio in 1940 was a box office bomb. But they re-released it in 45, and that's when it got most of its money, and it's had a few more re-releases since. So the actual box office figure we have is like a combination of across time the money it's made, multiple theatrical releases.
I just realised that came out in 1940, so that would have been like...
Oh, well, you want to hear a fun bit of trivia about it? What are you going to guess this trivia is based on the fact that it came out in 1940?
Something related to World War One.
World War Two.
Oh, World War Two. What about?
So Christian Rubb is the name of the actor who voiced Geppetto. And apparently he was a Nazi sympathiser. And all of the animators hated him because he kept rambling on to them about the glories of Adolf Hitler.
Fun.
So when they had to do the live action shooting for Geppetto fishing inside Monstro for reference, they put him on a makeshift stage for him to pretend to fish, and then they just kept knocking the whole thing over to make him totally dizzy, because they were like, oh, the boat is rocking, and then they were just absolutely making
slamming him.
Yeah, because they all hated him because he kept telling them how great Hitler was. It's fun.
It was an interesting time.
It also was. It marks the first time that famous actors were used to provide voices of cartoon characters.
Oh, okay.
So up until Pinocchio, every cartoon series or movie or anything that had come out had been voice actors whose job was to be voice actors.
Right.
And for this film, they had, I think, especially the guy who played Jiminy Cricket, Cliff Edwards, apparently was a really popular personality at the time. And this was the movie where they were like, hey, how about we get, bigger name stars in?
Yeah.
And so he was in, His Girl Friday and not Casablanca. What's the other famous film from around that time? I'm
Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, Gone with the Wind. I was I'm sounding like a terrible film fan right now. I just blanked. Yeah, he was in Gone with the Wind and His Girl Friday and a few other things. Well, he'd been in a bunch of westerns and things, I think.
That's a weird genre.
Yeah.
So it just exploded and then died again. Yeah.
It also was the first animated film to win an Academy Award in a competitive category. Because Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was given a special award, whereas this won for original score and best original song for When You Wish Upon a Star. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Any information about Chappie that we haven't covered?
Maybe the house that Hippo's lair is in. So when they cut to Hippo, when he's all partying at his hideout and gets the phone call about the police drones being down. That's actually Neill Blomkamp's childhood home.
Interesting.
The other thing was that it was supposed to be a trilogy, but because it didn't do well in box office, they dropped the idea of making sequels, which is sad. And the film was written in 2 weeks by Neill Blomkamp and his wife, Terri Tatchell.
That's a lot of coffee. While
they were making Elysium. So they're on the set of Elysium, producing Elysium, and they're like, oh, let's write this robot script.
Talk about multitasking, Jesus.
And the only other thing I had there was that there was an alternate ending where Chappie's consciousness was going to be transferred into all of the police robots. So they would all wake up as Chappie.
That's some, I was going to say I Am Legend, but that's the wrong Will Smith.
iRobot?
iRobot, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we could do this with iRobot.
No, we're not watching that again.
iRobot again? But apparently that's included in the special features on the Blu-ray.
Interesting.
For people who haven't seen Chappie, by the way, it is currently on Netflix here in New Zealand. I don't know if it is elsewhere, but...
Yeah, just...
but I probably should have said that at the beginning of this before we spoiled the whole movie.
That's fine.
Yep.
You can use that sequence for the short.
Yep.
There we go, sorted.
Budget and box office. So Chappie, the budget was $49 million, and it made $105 million in box office.
So I don't see how that's a flop.
Yeah,
You make your money
consider that
back
a flop.
plus, well, it's almost double.
I mean, yeah, it's more than double. It's double what they put into it. So they get the money back and then the same money again.
Yeah.
And then, DVD sales. I have it on DVD.
Yeah, I've got it on Blu-ray over there.
Right, you've got Blu-ray, I've got a DVD, and now it's on Netflix. It's not a flop, I wouldn't have said. But
then again, with Netflix, I don't think they actually give the production team, I think they give the distribution team money for the licensing.
Right, yeah, that would be true.
The whole system is super weird when you look into it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the podcast, when I tried to buy Lord of the Rings on the extended editions on Blu-ray, and I went into JB Hi-Fi, which is an Australian company for people that don't know, and tried to get a copy of it, and was told by the clerk, where the store had 4 pre-orders that they couldn't even cover,
right.
the entire of New Zealand JB Hi-Fi had gotten 9 copies of the extended editions in Blu-ray, because there was a current legal battle between the 2 distribution companies, one being a New Zealand one and one being their big parent company, which is Golden Light, but that's not right. Who are the production companies for?
There were so many. I know there was Weinstein Company where which I don't like. New Line Cinema?
Yeah, New Line and Wingnut, I think
Wingnut, yeah.
I think was the big issue in New Zealand.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Because they were just like, no, I want this much percentage of the sales. It's like, no, I want this much percentage. If we're making and then distributing them, why should we give you a percentage of it? It's like, because we helped make the movie, so why are you getting 100%?
Yep.
When it comes to money, things are stupid.
Yes, always.
Yeah.
Pinocchio, the budget was supposed to be $500,000, and then they went way over budget and spent $2.5 million.
That would have been a lot in 1940.
Yes. I don't know what that would translate to now, but a lot. And then box office, they made $122 million is what I've got here. So
but that could have been.
But that's after multiple, like I said, multiple re-releases. So I'd love to know what it made initially.
1940, yeah.
In the initial release, because they considered it a bomb. So it must have not made very much.
But then again, at the same time, how many people would have been... Well, in the States...
But this is only the second ever feature-length animated film.
Yeah.
Right? So the only thing they'd have to go on was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
True. Because was that 37, 38?
38, I think, yeah. And then, so this is 1940. I think Fantasia was released in 1940 as well, but it would have been after this. It's a beautiful film. It's like, I was just looking, like, as we were watching it, I was just admiring the animation and the backgrounds and things. Like, the whole sequence at Monstro is very painterly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously it was, like, painted frame by frame. Beautiful animation.
Yeah,
it still holds up today. I don't know if that's remastered, because we watched it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's like practical effects that just don't age.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why a lot of the Studio Ghibli films are...
Yeah, when you have painted backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really, really stand out as still being really beautiful. Because a lot of, you would have had a bunch in early 2000s that were coming out at the same time that, Disney films were trialing CG stuff. And so it's real clunky. Whereas, so you have, like, I don't know, I was going to say Meet the Robinsons, but I actually really like Meet the Robinsons. But, like, even, 90s Disney films like Hunchback of Notre Dame with all the CG crowd scenes where they're all just like blobs moving up and down, and it has aged really poorly, whereas then you look at, Studio Ghibli films from around the same time and they're just stunning.
Yeah.
But even DreamWorks were doing stunning things. So it's like Prince of Egypt is beautiful, and that was mid-90s.
I don't think have I seen? Yeah, we did watch.
We watched Prince of Egypt together.
Yeah, that was interesting because we went to the behind the scenes thing.
What behind the scenes thing?
the behind the scenes where they were making of it, and they were, like the way they designed everything, and they were talking about the first use of CGI the studio was doing for building like the big backgrounds and stuff. Or did I watch that by myself?
You might have watched that by yourself. We watched the movie together,
Weird.
certainly.
I don't know why I would have done that.
Maybe I talked a lot about it, because I think...
Maybe.
Because there's some really interesting CG sequences in that. But, like, it's... Yeah. There's a lot of beautiful animation out there.
We're completely off track.
Yeah, that's alright. It's okay. We've gone through everything we need to go through.
Yeah.
I just think that there's a lot of beautiful animation out there.
Yeah.
We don't give it enough credit sometimes.
Fair enough.
Alright, is there anything more you want to say about them?
No, I'm happy.
Okay. Alright, well, if you want to find us on social media, we're on Twitter and Instagram at ittakes2_pod and Facebook at ittakes2pod, and our website, as always, is ittakes2.co.nz.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.